Now we go to Winston-Salem's very own John Currie. Time to talk about the Demon Deacs, the #1 ranked baseball team in all the land.
All the land.
There's so many things we want to start with. Well, let's start about being #1 in baseball, right? Before we get to business here, this seems like one of those special teams now.
Pack, this is absolutely a very special team, and it's fun to be around them, and it's, as you know from doing this for a long time, when you got a special confidence and a special camaraderie, that is what leads to great outcomes. And I really commend Coach Walter. He's done a magnificent job of building the culture of this team.
I know you're AD, but put your fan hat on. What's it like watching this baseball team? Because Michael Alford, I know they just had a series this last weekend between Wake and Florida State, so he said 1 through 9, that lineup, giving you guys a ton of credit. What's it like watching just as a fan?
Well, I'm not a fan, right? I'm a professional. And so I watch it, really, though, enjoying the fact that this team has been built by Coach Walter.
Yeah.
It's been built because of investments in our program by David Couch and Chris Hurd. It's been built by belief by Ron Wellman and Gene Hooks, my two 60 years of predecessors who have been so committed to baseball excellence at Wake Forest.
Well, I'm not a professional, but I am a fan.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun to watch.
Your team, though, they can pitch, they can hit. I mean, you're not #1 without being able to check all the boxes.
Right.
And I will tell you, all the student athletes we've had from the Wake Forest baseball program have handled themselves so great on the show because it's not a cockiness. They know they're really talented and good, but it's like, hey, we expect to win, but we put in the work to get there. And it's really kind of refreshing to have those conversations with young people that have done the work, and now they're really starting to see that, guess what, we got a chance to do something really, really special.
You know, we got 415 special student athletes across our university, and Wake Forest baseball represents that really well.
Sure does. It's really impressive.
Another topic, obviously, we're going to talk about is football. And I know, obviously, there's a big push to invest in football. You guys have done an outstanding job in investing in Dave Clawson being one of the longer tenured coaches, which is so great to see when the landscape changes so much. You guys have some big things going on in terms of football when it comes to facilities. I know some new turf put in recently. So tell us what's going on there and just the more you're pushing toward football.
Well, Wake Forest has about $150 million in football-specific investments over the last decade. We believe across our whole athletics infrastructure, we have the best facilities in the conference and among the best facilities in the country. We believe we have the best coach in the conference with great respect to the fine coaching faculty in this league. But Dave Clawson represents everything that Wake Forest is about. And we were at a graduation reception on Sunday afternoon with these student athletes like Michael Juergens and Chase Jones, who are graduates, and now they're doing more finance degrees and stuff that I could never dream of, right? And that group of student athletes is really special.
John, I've known you for a long time, and you've always had a great feel for finance, whether it be at K-State, now obviously at Wake Forest, et cetera, without giving the whole biography with you. But this has to be one of the most interesting weeks of meetings, given that the main topic has been revenue distribution, grant of rights. I mean, and I know that money is always in play, but it seems like it's front and center now more so than ever before.
I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I look back on 30 years of college athletics, and starting on August 16th, 1993, as Deacon Club intern, and we've always needed more, and we've always gone to work every year to increase revenues and increase resources so we can support our student athletes in our programs. So that's continued in our league. It certainly continued at Wake Forest with the things we've been able to do from a fundraising capacity, whether it was raising $6 million for women's athletics initiatives last year as we celebrated 50 years of women's athletics at Wake Forest. So to me, we've had really constructive and healthy dialogue all week, for the last 2 days. It seems like a week, but it's only been like 36 hours. And I think that's indicative of the commitment that everyone has to continue to make our league stronger.
Michael Alford, right before you joined us, talked about that he felt better today than he did 2 days ago, and talked about the open dialogue, that everybody's being kind of transparent about, hey, here's the issues, now let's address how we solve them. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair assessment. And I also think that there's plenty of stuff that we've been doing behind the scenes, collaboratively. Different people have different ideas at different times, all with the same purpose, which is to have the strongest possible Atlantic Coast Conference.
What does progress look like, in your opinion, when it comes to revenue distribution and revenue generation?
Well, we want more, right? And Michael wants more. We want more. Everybody wants more, but it's got to come from somewhere. And ultimately, we got to think about what we're investing in. We're investing in the success of our programs and the success of our universities and the success of our student athletes. And I'm really proud at Wake Forest what we've been able to do, creating a sellout streak in football. We've set revenue records this year in baseball at David Couch Ballpark, and got a great atmosphere. And we'll continue to move the needle just like we have with football facilities. We're opening a $38 million enhanced football locker room complex in the Currie complex, which is really the capstone of our on-campus facilities. You walk inside the Shaw basketball complex. We've been appropriate, but we've been pretty determined to have the best possible facilities. And we've got as good a basketball facility as there is in the country. So all of those things take dollars. There's lots of ways to generate revenue. We've had great success with philanthropy at Wake Forest, and we've had great success growing our own market presence and extending the own Wake Forest brand.
What's the easiest revenue source to create more revenue for the league? What would you categorize that as? Which direction would you go in from that?
Well, one of my great mentors used to say, you can't exactly go turn on the spigot when you need it and then turn it off when you don't need it. So you got to go to work. You got to continue to expand and extend our brand. The ACC network's been a phenomenal help in doing that. One of the things that I think we're all excited about is continuing to grow. And you and I've talked about it some. Growing the presence of having the ACC network, having this show at the stadium before our home opener against Elon on the 31st of August. So continuing to extend that brand to grow the value of our league in our community is really important.
Yeah.
How different is your job as an athletic director now than it was when you first became an athletic director? Because this week it just feels like we talk so much about change. Yeah. And how change is so prevalent right now. How would you say what's the biggest difference?
This is my 13th year, right? And my first year was 2009 at Kansas State. And, so alignment and television rights and revenue sharing, this is like been every day of 13 years as an athletics director. So it's really not any different. There's a saying that leaders deal with hard problems and leaders deal with problems where there's no apparent easy solution. And I'm proud to work among the leaders of this league and work for a great president, Susan Wente, who's done a fabulous job following two great presidents at Wake Forest to further both Wake Forest athletics, but also Winston-Salem and the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Can I tell a funny story about John Currie?
Please.
John, you know
where this is going? Or
no,
you don't?
he has no idea.
Okay, let's enjoy it together.
The first time I met John,
okay,
I was working at SiriusXM, and we were doing our camp tours, and we were in Manhattan, Kansas. I'd never been to Kansas State, in the middle of nowhere, but it's beautiful.
Which I heard it's awesome.
It's a cool college town, right? And John is going to give us a grand tour of all this new infrastructure, building a new stadium and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, great, whatever. I mean, the more we get a chance to see K-State, the better. And so we haven't met yet. So they give us a hard hat. We got our construction outfit on. We're walking around. We got our microphone.
That's a sight.
I'm thinking like we know what we're doing. And we're walking up the upper deck, and there was beams and all this stuff floating around. And John shows up, buttoned up, suit, just no nonsense, business as usual. And I don't wear the hat. I got like that. I'm not wearing that stupid construction hat. And John looks at me. He doesn't know me. He goes, hey, fella, you over there. Put that hat on, and I'm throwing you out. And I look at, who is this guy? I said, well, that's John Currie. I'm like, oh, excuse me very much. Put the hat back on. And from that point on, we got along perfectly.
Well, as we've seen, like not everything that comes out of the media is always accurate, especially in the last 24 hours back.
Oh, yeah, that's been a wild ride for you on Twitter.
You're breaking up fights on Twitter. I mean,
whatever
this Currie guy is a problem.
Whatever it takes.
Well, I know you've been incredibly busy, but man alive, congratulations on all the success.
Yes.
And again, it's going to be fascinating to watch the landscape of college athletics do another twist in turn because it's coming, right? I mean, you just never know.
Well, we're just fortunate at Wake Forest. We got great people. If you look at our head coaching faculty, we have 13 head coaches. 5 of them have been ACC Coach of the Year since December of 21. I think we got a pretty good shot at a 6th.
I do.
I'd say so.
The votes ought to be in for the team that's already clinched the most wins in the league and the #1 seed in the tournament with Coach Walter. But it's those coaches that we have that have done a great job buying into what's special about Wake Forest. And one of the things that's special about Wake Forest is we win.
Yeah, you do.
That's the facts.
The Swiss. The Swiss.
Swiss are smart. The Swiss are efficient. The Swiss don't have the biggest budget.
That's it. Don't need the biggest
But the
budget.
Swiss are
Just
effective.
take
But
care
the
of
Swiss
business.
win.
The Swiss
Stay
are
low,
effective.
go.
keep moving, just get the W's. That's John Currie, runs the show at Wake Forest University, does a great job.